Good morning, everyone, and thank you for your patience this morning as we experienced a little bit of technical difficulties, but we seem to have them ironed out and ready to start the full authority meeting of October 24th, 2025 for the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Authority. I will read the land acknowledgement. The Niagara Peninsula watershed is situated within the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Adirondack, and the Anishinaabe, including the Mississauga, the Credit, many of whom continue to live and work here today. The territory is covered by the Upper Canada Treaties and is within land protected by the Dish with One Spoon Wampum Agreement. Today, the watershed is home to many First Nation, Métis, and Inuit peoples. At the NPCA, we strive to further our commitment to shared stewardship of the natural resources and deep appreciation of the Indigenous culture and history in the watershed in small ways every day. It is now 10:10. I would like to call this meeting to order, and if I could have the clerk do a roll call, please.
Thank you, Chair. Vice Chair Beatty? Member Clark? Thank you, Member Clark. Member Cridland?
Present.
Member Foster?
Present.
Member Grant? Member O'Neill? Member Seaborn?
Present.
Member Taddison?
Present.
Member Woodavine?
Present, thank you.
Chair Metcalf?
Present.
And that's quorum. Thanks, Chair.
Thank you, Madam Clerk. So we have a very fulsome agenda today with multiple presentations and a delegation. I'm looking to propose an amendment to address the delegation prior to the presentation and address the report associated with the campground operating strategy presentation once it has been received. Given that item 9.6 has a confidential appendix included, I suggest that we leave it there where it stands in the agenda rather than addressing it immediately following CAO Lee Yates' presentation. Can I get a mover and seconder to approve the following motion? That the agenda for the full board authority meeting held November 21st, 2025 be amended to address item 7.1 immediately following item 5.1, and that the November 21st, 2025 agenda be further amended to address item 9.2 immediately following 6.2. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Moved by Member Grant, seconded by Vice Chair Beatty. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. Are there any declarations of conflict of interest? Seeing none around the table. Approval of the minutes. Can I get a mover and seconder to approve the minutes of our last meeting? That the minutes of the full authority meeting are dated October 24th, 2025, and the minutes of the closed session full authority meeting dated October 24, 2025 be approved. Can I get a mover and seconder for that, please? Moved by Member Grant, seconded by Member Seaborn. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. So we'll go right into the chair's update. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us today again. On November 4th, I had the pleasure of joining some of my fellow board members at the NPCA's annual volunteer appreciation event. It is truly inspiring to come together and see a room full of passionate individuals who contribute to of ways. Thank you all for that, and do in the name of conservation, and thank you to our staff for giving us an opportunity to express our gratitude. Recognizing that a lot of time will be spent on this topic, I'd like to start by acknowledging the recent provincial announcements regarding conservation authorities and the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency. I'd like to thank CAO Lee Yates and our staff for continuing to provide excellent programs and services to residents in our community by diligently working to identify the next steps. Also at this time, I'd like to wish our CAO a happy birthday this morning. On behalf of the board, thank you very much, and many more happy returns. So from that, we'll just move into item 5, correspondence. We have 3 items of correspondence today. Are there any questions around the table regarding the correspondence before us? Can I get a mover and seconder to receive these items? And the motion that the following correspondence item be received. 5.1, correspondence dated November 7th, 2025, from the Ministry of the Environment, Conservation, and Parks regarding consultation on the proposed boundaries for regional consolidation of the Ontario's conservation authorities. And 5.2, correspondence dated November 29th, 2025, from Essex Region Conservation Resolution 90/25, Bill 63, and ERO posting 025-1257. And 5.3, correspondence dated November 17th, 2025, from United Counties of Stormont, Dundas, and Glengarry, Resolution number 2025/159 pertaining to conservation authorities. Can I get a mover and seconder to get that on the floor, please? Moved by
Member Whittovine will move that.
moved by Member Whittovine, seconded by Member Clark. All those in favor? And that is carried unanimously. And we'll move to item 7.1, Niagara Peninsula Conservation Foundation 2025 Director's Challenge. I'd like to invite Brett Harrington, Chair of the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Foundation, to the podium to provide a delegation. Thank you, Brett, and the chair is yours.
Good morning, everyone. As has been said, my name is Brett Harrington, and I'm the chair of the NPCF Board of Directors. And I want to thank you all for the opportunity to speak today. I've lived in our beautiful Niagara Peninsula watershed and have been an advocate for nature for over 20 years now. Originally volunteering, doing a lot of local ecological restoration. We did a lot of trails, planted probably 35,000 trees with the Glanbrook Conservation Committee now. I was invited to join the NPCF board in 2023, and my passion for conservation inspired me to take the role of the chair this past May. I'd like to thank my predecessor, Barbara Greenwood, for her great leadership in the position prior to me. I'm very proud of our thriving and collaborative partnership with the NPCA and the broader Niagara Peninsula community. We're poised for greater fundraising success in the future. We know people care about the environment, and we need to show them how to support it. We need to lead by example. Each year, the Director's Challenge invites us to model for others. Dominic Mickey DeFruscio, who served on the NPCA board for 25 years, called on board and staff and directors to demonstrate generosity in 2020. Since then, many of you have contributed to the Director's Challenge and helped keep Mickey's spirit alive. Since 2023, the challenge has earned $15,560. Several board and staff have already given this year. Donna Cridland and Vice Chair Beattie, for example. CAO Lee Yates is a monthly donor, as is NPCF's Development Officer, Sharon Pfeiffer. The 2025 Director's Challenge officially starts today. I have with me my own initial donation of $100, and I plan to follow that up with a $25 a month contribution going forward. I invite all of you to join me in this. This year, Giving Tuesday, the global generosity movement that launches the giving season and encourages support for local charities, is December 2nd. I would like to gratefully acknowledge Desjardins, our Giving Tuesday partner, who is committed to matching donations up to $5,000 for even greater impact. You should have received the Director's Challenge letter earlier this week. It is in your inbox now. It conveniently spells out the many ways you can make your donation: online, today in person, over the phone, or by e-transfer. You can also set up payroll deductions to donate your board service per diem, tax deductible, of course. Sharon has copies of the letter and pledge form available today. You can stop by her office or if she's around after the meeting. Imagine the message we'll send if we can say that 100% of our directors invest in the cause we champion. Let's show Niagara what true leadership looks like and inspire others to follow our example. So today on Giving Tuesday, or through the giving season, but no later than December 31st, Please show the community that we believe in nature for all, for always. Thank you.
Thank you, Brett. Absolutely. I will plan on making a donation on Giving Tuesday, as I always do every December. So, great for getting the word out there. Are there any questions around the table for our delegate this morning? Seeing none, can I get a mover and seconder to receive the delegation? The delegation for Niagara Peninsula Conservation Foundation regarding the 2025 Directors Challenge be received. Can I get a mover? Moved by Member Cridlin, seconded by Vice Chair Beatty. All in favor? And that is carried unanimously. Thank you. We have a presentation this morning under item 6.1, Balls Falls Thanksgiving Festival Recap. I will invite Director of Conservation Areas Adam Christie and Supervisor Communications and Public Relations Erica Navarro to the podium to share a recap of the Thanksgiving Festival.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Adam Christie with my colleague Erica Navarro. And on behalf of the manager of the Thanksgiving Festival, Alicia Powell, we're going to kind of run through some of the main metrics for this year's festival that was very successful. We had 4 amazing days of good weather and have some really exciting things to share with everybody. There you go. So today we're going to go over a few things that include the admissions and sales, talk about our advertising, and the visitor satisfaction, and we're already planning for 2026. Wanted to start off by giving a real appreciation and thank you to our sponsors. We've continued to get really good success with not only Giant FM and Country 89, but we've had some success with grant opportunities through the provincial portal and through Celebrate Ontario, and we've also been given status as a top 100 event through the province, so something we're really excited about. So without further ado, we're going to give a video done by TNR Productions, who led our musical entertainment for the weekend, that really captures the everything with the festival this year. Take it away. Yeah, thank you again to Dave Rapley with TNR Productions who put that together for us and really captures so many elements of the festival, to our historical village, to the live entertainment, to the amazing vendors. It just shows, and also he's able to capture just how busy the festival got this year. I wanted to give a little bit of a festival overview and just talk about for starters, as I mentioned earlier, we are recognized as a top 100 event. We're hoping to apply for that again and receive it as well for this year. This year we had 167 artists and vendors at the festival. My apologies. We had a max about 170 5 years ago. And when we changed the layout, which became really popular, to adding all the food and beverage into the main V section with live entertainment, we had to reduce the amount of vendors to more about the 140. But with our amazing festival team and looking at different creative options, we were able to get that vendor number back up to 167 this year, which we're really happy with. From a children's and family entertainment wise, we used to do a lot of children's entertainment on the main stage. This year we separated it and made it over into our historical village. It was within the church, so we could have live music going throughout the whole day. We found it was really popular. It's like making the historical village area the family kids area, and really enhanced it. And we thought that went really well. And it allowed us to have 4 full musical sets continuing within the main area and food and beverage area, which we got really good reviews on. I want to give special thanks. Our historical village is something that I think separates us from different vendor festivals. I think it's something that we think is really unique, and continuing to enhance that. We have some incredible volunteers that we're all at the volunteer appreciation night, and thanking some of the people. But I want to give special credit to Joanna Paul and Ian Wright for putting together an amazing Balls Falls apiary within the outbuildings of the ball home. Really cool display. And then, of course, we always can never say thank you enough to Howie and Phil, who put together an amazing rope making and leather works within the display barn that was really popular this year, and really putting our historical village come to life. Coming to the actual metrics of the festival this year, we had an incredible year. We know we had 25,000 people came to the festival this year. We did a brand new system. We use actual POS system through collaboration with our corporate services team, that we actually have hard data numbers of people that came in this year. And that 25,000 people is including the staff and extra volunteers and vendors and other people. So knowing that there's close to 30,000 people within the 4 days is an incredible attendance. On Monday, we know we hit peak attendance of 8,500 to 9,000 people on the Monday. And I think we all, from the staff and everybody, felt like that was, if not, pretty darn close to capacity for the day. And we also had a really nice increase in advance online tickets, thanks to our amazing communications team. That really helped in a few ways. One, it gives us an advanced revenue in case of poor weather, but it also allows, with this many people, to support the line coming in and having a different place for online ticket sales. So it really works in a couple ways. So with this increase in attendance and an increase in revenue from last year, I want to make sure we remember that last year we even had additional, like we had a Saturday night extended hours and advanced musical guests because of the 50th anniversary. So these attendance and metrics that were higher than last year, this without that, this is with our normal hours. So I think it just shows the success of this year's festival and the real playbook we want to go through going forward. So with that, Erica, I'll pass it along.
Okay. Every year, our team delivers a robust and fully integrated communications and marketing plan for the Balls Falls Thanksgiving Festival, featuring a full suite of tools and tactics. While the plan covers a wide range of initiatives, today I'll highlight a few components. This year, we put significant effort into a digital-first advertising strategy, building off our strong community and earned media presence built over the last few years. We expanded online advertising quite heavily, present on Google, Facebook, Instagram, our second year on TikTok, and our first year on Spotify, which was very well ran. We also worked in partnership with Giant Shoe Creative, a reputable and well-recognized marketing agency from St. Catharines. We deepened influencer collaborations by working with 10 social media influencers and local influencers, which included Moms Niagara and Girls Gone Niagara, both of whom have strong followings that align closely with our target audiences. We also formed new partnerships, including one with CAA Niagara, which we offered their members exclusive deal on tickets, and 621 were purchased, which was a high success. This year, we also explored new ad placements in an effort to reach audiences outside of NPCA's jurisdiction, which everybody is well familiar with the Balls Falls Thanksgiving Festival, and of course, reaching markets into the GTA. This year, there was much excitement around our ad in the Canada magazine, which is delivered to more than 50,000 homes with the Globe and Mail across the GTA, and a digital billboard over Exhibition Place, which of course was placed during the MLS postseason, which the Blue Jays were in. We additionally ran several strategic billboard ad placements around Grimsby, Hamilton, and Niagara Falls. And this great graphic shows all of our successes. So this year's marketing efforts successfully increased awareness, attendance, and excitement around this beloved tradition. Over 450 media articles, that's very impressive, and demonstrates in strong public and media interest. A 42-cent cost per click is really great and well below industry averages. Typically, you see something closer to $1 for Facebook and Instagram. This shows highly efficient ad targeting and strong content relevance. Over 9 million impressions, also very impressive, which indicates widespread brand exposure and sustained visibility. A 3.71 engagement rate reflects significant community interaction and audience resonance. This suggests that the content was not only seen, but also meaningfully connected with the audience. And of course, something we're very excited about every year. This year, we gained 740 social media followers in a very short time frame, which represents a significant spike in audience interest and growth momentum. Shortly after the Balls Falls Thanksgiving Festival, our team was very proud to finally reach a 5,000 social media following presence on Instagram. And
Thank you, Erica. And Erica's team was also gracious and able to help out with doing surveys throughout the weekend to get some feedback on how everybody enjoyed the festival. And we're pretty happy that the overall satisfaction rate was 4.65 out of 5. You know, it's pretty good, right? It's not bad. And the thing I think we're mostly proud of, though, and one of the main challenges we have at the festival, as you know, Balls Falls is not designed for that magnitude of event. So getting people in and out is one of the big challenges we have, and especially people with a variety of accessibility needs. So to be able to have a rate score of accessibility and easy navigation of 8.47 out of 10 is something I know our core festival team is really proud of, and we'll continue to look at ways we can continue to improve. And of course, will you join again next year? 80%. So we can celebrate our success a little bit, but with this size of a festival, we are already starting the planning for 2026. It's our team's goal to continue to maintain not only the quantity, but the quality of vendors that we had this year. And of course, and continue to enhance our children's and family programming and heritage displays. And like I mentioned, continuing to review the accessibility service and how we shuttle and get people in and out of the festival. And lastly, I think we want to really continue building on this marketing and advertising success we have. I want to close out with just thanking, the core festival team, Sarah Hutley, Catherine Orsini, Emily Rush, and of course, Alicia Paolo manages the festival. All of the different departments within the organization. It's very unique to have this size of a festival where the festival is run completely within the organization with no external contracting. So from access from the roadway into the parking to the golf shuttles, all the way throughout the operations within the park. It's all done within our organization. I just want to thank all the staff, the volunteers, board members, the foundation, everybody that made this event an incredible 4 days. So thank you, and happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Adam. Yes, it was, I was there on the Saturday, and it was very well attended and organized. And again, thank you to everyone, all our volunteers, staff members that worked that whole weekend. It is a must-attend event, and it has been for myself and friends and family for the past 10 or 12 years. So kudos to the team. Are there any questions for Adam or Erica at this time? Oh, Mark, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
I do. When I was there, I noticed that there were QR codes strategically, taped to the picnic tables. And I'm wondering if that's how we got some of our 740 new people to register.
Yes, through you, through Chair Metcalf, the member, we had QR codes for both the foundation and the festival, as well as general brand awareness for NPCA. And that QR code is what got people to fill out the surveys. We also encourage them to participate in the survey for a chance to win free tickets to the Bells Falls Thanksgiving Festival next year. We had them strategically placed all around the picnic tables, also in the children's area, family area, and the Heritage Village, at all the gatehouses. And it also encouraged people to, while you're here, if you want to support conservation, if you want to support the festival as well, donate to the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Foundation. And that was a great success. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Are there any more questions for Adam and Erica? Member Cridlin.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Again, really, it's just a comment on how smooth it went. I also, like many, were there for a little bit of it. And talking to some of the vendors, one highlight was, again, just building all the points that you've already brought forward, was that it was so highly organized compared to any other festival he had been at. And again, that's a vendor that goes to many across Ontario. So that one I happened to land on, and the feedback was so incredibly positive. And then the people that we got to speak to via the foundation hat that we were wearing that day, many of them woke up that morning, looked at advertisement in their social medias, thank you comms, and just said, here's where we're going today. So all the magic that you created, looking forward to 2026. So just thank you.
That's great to hear. Thank you.
Thanks, Member Cridlin. Are there any more questions or comments? Member Foster.
Yes, thank you, and thank you for the report, guys. Not trying to dampen things. Weather was incredible that you guys had for that weekend, and how much does that play, historically from your view on that? And can we basically force good weather every Thanksgiving weekend from now on? So.
No, thank you for the question, and I don't think we can lie. I think weather's a huge part of it. When we have an amazing, 10 degrees or higher and sunny, it comes out in droves. But if you saw, I will mention that the Saturday called for rain the entire day, and it did. There was some rain in the morning, and there were some clouds, and we still saw an incredible day. People will come. They know they will dress up, but it certainly has a massive impact. And we've just been discussing this internally and chatting with our corporate services team, maybe some of the success from this revenue. We look at ways that we can put some reserve or something in together for next year in case of a really poor weather event.
Thank you. And just the other thing, and I can speak on behalf of my son Scott, who was out there as well. Thank you very much for all the help that you gave him and getting up. I think that partnership between Balls Falls and the town of Lincoln and the heritage side of things continues and will continue well into the future. So anyway, thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Member Foster. Are there any more questions? Seeing none, thank you, Erica. Thank you, Adam. So the motion that the Balls Falls Thanksgiving Festival recap presentation be received. Can I have a mover and seconder to get that on the floor? Moved by Member Grant, second by Member Foster. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. So moving on to item 6.2, Campground Operations Strategy. We'll have Will and James Maneri joining us online from Canvas Strategy Consulting Group to present on a proposed campground operating strategy. Oh, and it's just Will. So the floor is yours, Will.
Great. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Can everybody hear me okay? This is mic check. And I'll make sure that the presentation appears on screen as well. Excellent. Technical issues resolved. So thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you to the board for having me here today to share the results of this study that we've been working on for the last couple months with Adam and team. As mentioned, my name is Will Maneri. I'm the founder and director of Canvas Strategy Consulting Group. I'm joined on the line by my brother here in this. For NPCA. The boom in pandemic interest in camping as a way to get out of your home and get into environments that were friendly during the pandemic seems to have continued. There's a growth in new subsectors within camping, such as glamping or luxury style camping, and a variety of new service offerings that are cropping up from camping operators around year-round camping, outdoor wellness, and sustainability-oriented offerings. More regionally focused in the Niagara region, the tourism within Niagara continues to grow, which has a knock-on consequence for how the campgrounds are perceived and linked to. There's a changing of the demographics in some of the campers in Canada more broadly towards younger and more diverse groups, which has implications for amenities and service offerings. And then given ongoing dynamics related to trade with our partners to the south, there is a push around domestication of travel, particularly of leisure travel, that is a tailwind and an opportunity for campgrounds such as NPCA. Now, zooming in a little bit more closely, the study really focused on 4 factors: pricing, servicing, user mix, and then also seasonal booking models. And it did a mix of looking at internal data and performance, as well as industry benchmarks and common practices. On pricing, our analysis really split in 2 areas. We took a look at the typical transient pricing, the overnight or non-seasonal pricing of NPCA, and generally found NPCA was relatively high as compared to peers. This was true regardless of service level, and is something that we kind of kept in mind as we proceed later to recommendations. On seasonal, the story is a little bit different. NPCA fits more in the midpoint within the range, with some variability depending on whether you compare to sites that have sewage on site or not. But it's much more comfortably in a range relative to peers as opposed to transients, which gives us some indicators of what might be possible or what might be appropriate from a price change strategy. The other element that we account for here is that seasonal camping at NPCA has a very high utilization rate, so high, in fact, that there's an ongoing wait list. And that tells us a little bit about what we can or cannot do from a pricing standpoint. 2 other elements that we looked at on pricing. One was the relative discount that seasonal campers receive as compared to transients. This is a common portion of any seasonal camping model. You want something to entice people to book for an entire season at a time, and pre-book and prepay in a way, and you have to offer them something in return. And so typically seasonal pricing, if you do it on a day-by-day comparable basis, is cheaper. And in the instance of NPCA, it's between a 40 or 65% discount versus if you booked simply overnight. Now, one other element on pricing we looked at was how it has trended in recent years relative to inflation. And starting in the early 2020s, when inflation began to pick up, NPCA generally and its seasonal and transient pricing matched or just about matched the rates of inflation. But in recent years, it has started to exceed or slightly exceed the rate of inflation as it has cooled. This, again, we kind of keep in mind as we go into recommendations later about whether it is appropriate to continue increase and what the appetite and tolerance will be amongst NPCA's customers. On servicing, we looked at this in a number of different ways. We took a comparison to conservation authorities, Ontario parks, and private operators that Adam and team had identified as the typical comparables within the region. And we took a look at the amenities that are typically offered on site and how NPCA stacks up relative to them. Generally, the comparison is favorable in that there's not major gaps within the service offering at NPCA relative in particular to its conservation area peers. There's much more substantial differences when we compare to the private operators who typically have more luxury amenities and services on their sites, justifying their typically much higher price points. One area around servicing, or actually I should say, we also reviewed some of the survey results that had asked seasonal campers in particular for their views on the services and amenities that are on NPCA campgrounds. Generally, these spoke favorably of the services that were available, with the vast majority of respondents indicating at minimum average, if not good or excellent, service quality and maintenance quality on site. Though with some highlighting of conditions of roads and conditions on the exact campsites themselves as being an area of interest or slight concern. In terms of park amenities, a similar story to servicing. The only additional point we would highlight is there was a much higher proportion for certain amenities where individuals indicated they were unsure. And these would be amenities such as fishing, boat launch, which require your own fishing rod, your own boat in order to be relevant. Or things like playground and volleyball courts, which may cater to very specific demographics. This is an observation we keep in mind as we think about that trend towards a changing demographic using campgrounds, that they may have different amenities that they're interested in over time versus our historical seasonal campers. The main observation on servicing was we took a look at the utilization rates on transient sites, which vary substantially across sites. With the low end, certain sites only being booked around 10% of the operating days within a season, and other transient sites achieving 70% or 50%, and a huge range within that. The primary driver from our analysis that we could identify is the level of servicing on site. An unserviced transient site using 2024 data had around a 24% booking rate. So 24% of operating days were booked and used. A 15 amp transient site was roughly double that at almost 47, almost 50%. And 30 amp performed relatively similarly. This is a clear indicator to us that a way to improve the financial performance and utilization rates for transient sites would be to explore upgrades on the servicing to those sites. Now, in terms of user mix, in our conversations with Adam and the team, one of the items they highlighted is that the seasonal campers have historically been used as a way to offset the full operating costs of the NPCA campgrounds. It's a risk mitigation strategy of sorts, that you've got a locked-in customer base that can cover your costs, even if transient bookings don't achieve what you need to in a given year. And this has roughly been the experience for both Chippewa Creek and Long Beach over the 3 years that we looked at as part of the financial analysis. One item that did come up as we were investigating and thinking about the seasonal camping model, one, we're obviously keeping in mind that there is a substantial wait list for these sites, but also that the demographics of the seasonal campers varies or differs from that of campers in Canada more broadly. In general, seasonal campers skew somewhat older in NPCA campgrounds relative to the general population of folks who are looking to camp. And to us, we didn't take this as a red flag or a extreme cause of concern for NPCA, but it is an item for monitoring and thought within NPCA's strategy around do these campers in the seasonal category eventually lose interest or are unable at some point to participate in seasonal camping? And is there a need to create more of an on-ramp for younger generations of campers in the seasonal model as well? Finally, on the seasonal camping models, we took a look at what others do to manage their wait list, especially in periods where there's high demand that exceeds the number of spaces for seasonal sites that are available. To be honest with this group, there's not a lot of innovation on this within the campground sector. Most are using some form of first come, first serve, or a lottery type of format for simply and only the unused sites that come available from time to time. We expanded our reach to look at other seasonal recreational amenities, such as marinas or ski lodges and community gardens, to try to see if there were other approaches in different sectors that could be used by NPCA to manage its seasonal wait list. From that, relative 3 options did emerge. First is some amenities will use a totally open lottery format for their seasonal bookings. So no continuity from year to year. Every year, folks enter into a draw and may or may not receive a site allocation. This ensures equitable access. It's also at times used as a community event or a marketing opportunity, but it's unpredictable for end users and obviously has a challenge for stability of the organization. It's a big involvement and effort on an annual basis to administer this type of process. The second model that we did see was tenure caps, allowing folks to book seasonal sites from year to year, but only for 2 or 3 or 5 years at a time. It ensures some turnover while also allowing for continuity from year to year, though it's a little bit unclear in the design exactly what the right level and of that, like how you should set the clock, essentially, for that type of approach. Third and final model is essentially prioritizing access to the seasonal list for priority groups. Now, this clearly has a challenge in terms of who is a priority group. How do you define and decide which group would be appropriate? But it is a way that if an NPCA or another recreational amenity operator wanted to get certain populations and groups, such as folks from the local community, to make sure that they had access to this, that they could do so. Now, finally, just in terms of recommendations, we provided a series of recommendations to Adam and team for consideration in their future planning and operational planning for the NPCA campgrounds. As part of that, we did an assessment, which you'll see in your package, around 4 main dimensions. We looked at fiscal responsibility, not from a profit maximization standpoint, given the Conservation Authority's mission, but really, does it create opportunity to invest? Does it ensure stability of the organization over time? Is it responsible from a fiscal resources perspective for NPCA? From a future readiness, does it align with some of the trends that we've observed? Is it prepare the organization for what might change in its client base and the sector as a whole? Does it match community needs and desire for greater access to campgrounds? And does it ensure relative competitive parity, knowing that many other campgrounds are making investments or changing their offerings from a year-to-year basis? On servicing, as I alluded to earlier, this was one of the key recommendations that came out of the analysis, that we believe that there's a clear case for exploring upgrades to the NPCA sites. At present, we recommend exploring a 15 amp upgrade across all transient sites on both campgrounds as the clearest of the business cases. There's not a lot of difference that we could see just yet in the transient utilization rates of a 15 versus a 30 amp. Essentially, what the data says to us is, as long as you get some servicing on the site, you may have an opportunity for improved performance. Now, I would caveat with this recommendation that we didn't have the benefit of the costing analysis that is underway, looking at what would this entail? What does it look like from a capital cost perspective, which Adam and team are working on. And so this final recommendation does have a slight caveat with that, where we would want to see what the return on investment and payback period is once the full scale of investment is known, and also what the difference is in a 15 amp versus 30 amp upgrade. If there's no difference between the two, a 30 amp is potentially preferred as a way to better prepare against future demands from campers. On pricing, we looked at a wide range of models. And so in some ways, this slide doesn't do full justice to all of the different alternatives that we explored, but was really the 3 that seemed to be most appropriate that we were narrowing on. Where our recommendations focused was around a much more muted and modest increase in seasonal pricing, recognizing that NPCA is already within the peer range, but it is not at the low end of that range. Also recognizing that there is a wait list demonstrating some pent-up demand that NPCA can tap into. We did flag within this that option C would be option C, or a decrease in transient pricing is something that NPCA should keep back pocket for future. If it is making upgrades to transient sites and does not see an uptick within their utilization rates, this may be an option to revisit to ensure that it's of interest and competitive with others in the area. And then third and finally, on site mix, we really explored two opposite directions to take this. One would be to expand the seasonal camping allocation of sites to more of a 75-25 split across both sites, in order so that the full extent of the existing seasonal wait list could be accommodated within seasonal sites, versus going the other direction, more of a 60-40 type of split, allocating more to transients over time. The latter was ultimately our recommendation as a way to replenish or create more opportunities for individuals to experience NPCA campgrounds through the transient sites. It also is a way to potentially hedge some of the risk that of too much focus on a seasonal camping model with a clientele that may not match the future clientele of NPCA. And also the underallocation of sites to transients really historically hinged on this reality that they simply weren't as economical for NPCA. But if the servicing upgrades are made on these sites, that story certainly begins to change. And finally, obviously, all these recommendations will be consumed by Adam and team as part of their planning, and they will do the hard work of figuring out exactly the staging and sequencing. But we did provide some guidance on what felt appropriate to us in terms of the path forward to take these recommendations, starting near term in the 2026 and 2027 seasons by exploring those upgrades to transient sites, monitoring the cost of the 30 amp upgrade instead, and potentially going all the way to that level if it's found to be cost neutral with 15 amp servicing, and administering and implementing that slight increase on the pricing on the seasonal side. But no changes are recommended near term to the camping seasonal site allocation model. On more of the medium term basis, once those upgrades are in place on transient sites, monitoring the utilization of those to see if it has had the effect that we're hoping for of increasing utilization. And if so, begin that gradual shift towards more transient sites over time. And then finally, over the long term, so more of a 5-year plus type of scenario, as some of these changes come into place, look at the booking policies for seasonal campings and see if an adjustment is needed. If there's fewer seasonal sites available at that point in time, some of the open lottery, tender caps, or other formats may be considered and important to ensure access. So that's a very brief, probably not quite as brief as could have been, but very brief summary of a few months here of work. I know Adam has a report that will follow this about some of the specific near-term actions they're taking in line with this, but happy to take any questions now or at the conclusion of Adam's presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Will. Are there any questions for Mr. Maneri at this point? Member Foster.
Yeah, thank you for the presentation. So, enhancements, I guess, if you want to put them that way. Like if we were to go with kind of your one of the suggestions on going to 30 amp and stuff like that with things, is there also, with most campgrounds, is there like measuring of that? Like do you put things in place so that people are actually paying for what they're using with electricity? Like for instance, many of these modern trailers and stuff like that, it's like you got a floating palace that has electricity being drawn like crazy. So is there anything being done in any other areas with something like that?
There are some campgrounds that will do metering and do a charging on a per use basis. We did do a little bit of a look. Adam can speak to this as well. A little bit of a look at the hydro utilization even on these sites, and it was not a significant economic determinant of the profitability of service sites. So I think it is. There are examples where other campgrounds have done it, but it did not feel to us critical to the proposition, like the benefit of making these types of upgrades.
Thank you, Member Foster. Are there any more questions? Vice Chair Beatty?
Yes, thank you for your presentation. But years ago, when I was much younger, and my family was much younger, we did some traveling, RV traveling across Canada, to the West Coast, to the East Coast, and to Florida. And as I recall, and my memory may not be all that good, but when you speak of serviced, in the U.S., we had fully serviced where you hooked up to electrical, water, and sewer. When you say serviced, what are you referring to? All three, or just one, or just two? Because your emphasis seemed to be on electrical.
That's correct. Yeah, the emphasis here was very much on electrical because we saw that that was a enormous determinant of the booking patterns for transient sites. We had a number of discussions, Adam and I, about sewage hookups as well, because that is one of the areas where other campgrounds have offered that level of service. But my understanding, and Adam, again, correct me on this portion, is that that is less feasible given the site layouts that we have at NPCA. And so we didn't explore it as part of the recommendations on that basis.
So when you say service, it's water and electrical.
That's correct.
Okay, with respect to electrical, one of our problems in the past with NPCA is the electric companies that we have to deal with. I remember significant problems, in Bimbrook and in Long Beach, and I see the superintendent of Long Beach here today. Welcome back. We couldn't put in a three-phase system. And I didn't see a three-phase system included in all of this when we're putting in the electrical. So the electrical upgrade for what we want to do would be significant. Is it going to three-phase, or are we going to stick with the old 220?
Thanks for the question, Vice Chair Beatty. Adam, can you handle that for us, please?
Yeah, and thank you for the question. So today's presentation is more of the objective analysis, looking at everything, utilization rates, recommendations based on that. We are coming back to this board in December to answer all of the questions you're just asking. With a fulsome presentation, cost estimates, everything that you're going to want to know. You got it. Everything. Myself, Steve Miller are going to give you it all.
All my questions I don't have to ask because you're going to answer them all before I ask them. That's very good. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Beatty. I see that, Mark, you have your hand up, but I'm going to go to Member Cridland first. She had her.
Okay.
Oh, okay. Mark, you're up.
I'm just wondering if any work's going to be done on the best utilization of conservation space. Like, is camping and overnight camping, is that the best use, or is something like treetop trekking, is that more economically viable for space?
Adam's going to handle that question for you. Member Tattison, Adam?
Or I could wait for a month or two to get all the answers.
No, through you, Chair, I think that's part of this analysis that was done and showing the revenue generated by our transient camping and seasonal camping sites. But that's not to say that these are large parks that have a lot of different space and areas that are more natural in different areas, that continuing to improve those with trails and other recreational amenities. I believe that was one of the recommendation in one of his first slides, was with the younger generation of transient campers, looking at those variety of amenities that aren't just camping, but other ways to enhance the parks.
Right.
Okay, so fair enough. I guess my question then is, there's certain advantages when you do have overnight camping, because I think you take control of the beach water testing if you have some kind of seasonal campground. Is that true?
Through you, Chair, we do our own water testing at Chippewa and Long Beach through our water quality team within the NPCA. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, I was just looking for, options at the Bimbrook site in terms of when I was doing my reading, I kind of recognized that it said, if there's seasonal or overnight campground or it's a campground, that takes that puts the responsibility on the operator of the park to do the testing as opposed to the public health board.
Yeah, thank you for the question. I don't believe that correlates. I think it's more jurisdictional.
Okay, thank you. Sorry to take you off topic.
Okay, are there any more questions for either Will or Adam on this campground strategy? Now we have Member Cridland would like to ask a question.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. I just want to clarify. I know the presentation is excellent in terms of being able to generate some questions, but were we going to see the report also to be able to ask Adam more questions, or I don't want to lose my opportunity for asking more questions if there's still more time. But I don't have anything particular to the presentation. Thank you, Chair.
So I guess we'll just have to stay tuned and wait for the report in December. It's coming with the report. So, Adam, go ahead.
Don't kid yourself. He's not getting enough out.
So I just have to receive this presentation from Will. So the motion, can I get a seconder? If there are any more questions or no more questions? Good. All right. So the motion that the campground operating strategy presentation be received. Mover, Vice Chair Beatty, second by Member Tattison. All in favor? Good, that's carried unanimously. Thank you, Will, for being here and putting the presentation together.
Our pleasure. Thank you.
So now we're going to move into section 9.2, report FA 53. Oh, sorry.
Since we have Will here, would it be worthwhile dealing with the report right away and then go to the other one?
Yeah, we're bringing the report.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that was, I think, the amendment that was made in the...
Okay.
Adam, do you need to call Will back to help on questions on the report?
Oh,
Yes.
he's gone. Oh, okay. He's
He
gone,
might have
so
just
that's
turned
fine.
his camera on.
Okay, don't worry about it.
Okay. Okay.
Okay.
All right, thank you.
Okay, so we're ready to go here. So Adam's just going to report on report FA 53-2025, Niagara Peninsula Campground Analysis and Operating Strategy. And it's, of course, tied to the presentation. I'll ask to invite Director Christie to provide brief remarks on the report. And thank you, Adam.
Thank you, Chair. And I just want to start by thanking Will and his team for amazing presentation. And they did some incredible background work for us. So I'm just really appreciative. The purpose of this report is to update the Board of Directors on the NPCA campground analysis and operating strategy completed by Canvas Strategy Consulting Group, with the purpose of seeking board endorsement to start initiating the proposed recommendations. So as we alluded to, the NPCA contracted Canvas Strategy Consulting to do a performance analysis, customer insights, peer benchmarking, and trend research to support the growing increase in visitation, increase in revenue, and increase in popularity of NPCA's both Chippewa Creek and Long Beach Conservation Area Campground. Through the analysis, the recommendations that came out of it were a short-term and medium and more of a long-term approach to these recommendations. So for starters in the short term, given the feasibility of upgrading unserviced transient sites to improve utilization and revenue and adjustments to seasonal pricing. In the medium term is to monitor booking patterns for upgrading the sites, redefining servicing and pricing strategies, and continuing to look at a sites mix rebalancing to more of a 60-40 model. And in the long term, as the mix and seasonal transient sites changes, the NPCA to continue to look at our policies and further recommend programming traditionally associated with more transient-focused campgrounds, glamping, other recreational amenities, maybe for a younger generation. So with that, having that said, I'm happy to take any questions on the report.
Thank you, Adam. Are there any questions around the table for Adam at this point. And
Adam,
member,
Mr. Chair, it's Member Whitavine. I just had a quick question for Adam.
okay, Member Whitavine, go ahead.
Adam, when you mentioned glamping, so I sit on the NEC board and we talk about yurts and things like that on the NEC. That seems to be a kind of a popular trend these days. And I wonder if you could look into, us establishing something like a geodome in an area, or, to kind of build on that glamping. Because I think that I would like you to look into it, just because I believe that there is a demand out there for it. And if it's something that we can expand this project on and draw more people to our sites, then I think it's worth looking into. So I don't know if you have any comment, or whether you think that's feasible or not.
Yeah, thank you for the question. And through you, Chair, that's exactly what we're referring to within that glamping slide and conversation around. Our partners, Hamilton Conservation Authority, other partners closely, have had some success with cabins and different yurts, and like you mentioned, geodomes in other areas. So this is something we certainly want to look at, and also realizing that with the low utilization rates with more of the camping style camping, pretty much we're only targeting groups that have trailers, which is not something we really want to limit ourselves to. So looking at these other options and bringing in clientele or visitors that are not just ownership of trailers is something that is important to us.
Okay, through Mr. Chair, that's awesome. Thank you for that, and look forward to your findings. Thank you.
Thanks, Member Whitavine. More questions? Member Foster.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. So, a few differing things, and I know Adam is probably already prepared for where I'm going to go with this. So, it's been 7 years that I've said here that, we are nature for all, not nature for a few. So, I'm just curious, in and around the seasonal people that are coming into play, is there still rules in place that basically say you have first rate back into it, or have we changed some of those processes?
So really appreciate the question. And yes, I'm completely prepared that this question was coming up. Part of this analysis was looking at all of the models for seasonal camping. So our current process is the process of first right of refusal for seasonal camping. In looking at all the models and best practice, Will and his team determined throughout all conservation authorities, everybody's using the same models. There is no outlier. Ontario Parks uses more of a lottery system model. So looking at the pros and cons, we still do feel that the first come first served model is the best approach for us now. But in the recommendation and looking at this, our seasonal camping, of taking it in from a 75-25 model down to more of a 60-40% model, where there's less seasonals, more transients, more nature for all, and then continuing to sort of evaluate how that process is going. And then when there is less seasonals and more transient in this long-term solution, continuing looking at these different forms of methods that Will and his team put together that might be more suitable.
Okay. So have we considered in any way, shape, or form what I would call hybrid models? In other words, personally, I feel it is totally inappropriate that people year after year after year are getting sites at our parks basically from May through to September, and there seems to be no methodology in place to go above and beyond that. So has there been any thought processes, maybe monthly, going into place? Has there been any review done whatsoever on that type of thing, kind of maybe what the cost would be to come into play to do something that, in my opinion anyway, is far more fair than what we're currently doing? So
Thanks, Member Foster. I see.
That's to Adam.
I see, Will, you have your hand up, or Adam? Oh, sorry, I'm directed to Adam, sorry. Go ahead.
So you three, so the question is, what are we doing to, like, but what is the actual direct question? I can give you, this is something we are continually looking at. And in one of the models there is a 10-year cap. So looking at, every 10 years, switching it around, and relooking at things. So there are a bunch of options. I do want to make sure that our seasonal campers are something that we are very important to us. So just for context, our campgrounds, we have a budget for about $1.2 million annually. That makes up well over 25% of our conservation area division's annual revenue. Of that $1.2 million, $800,000 of it comes from seasonal camping. So this is a significant revenue generation for us. These campers do put significant costs into their sites. So it is something we are very careful of looking at. But again, we also completely understand and agree where you're coming from. So looking at different areas to make it more equitable, to have more nature for all in some of these areas, I think are captured in this report. But Willing, I don't know if that helps or answers.
Yeah, just if I may, just in addition to it, because it is an excellent question that we thought a lot about in this. That is in part the rationale for the staging of the recommendations, starting with the upgrades to transient sites and making the transient proposition at NPCA stronger, essentially, to allow and unlock the ability to put more sites as transient over time and give greater access to the community to it. Too quick a shift with some of the dynamics Adam was alluding to of it is imperative to the financial model of the campgrounds right now to have a seasonal allocation this high. We're trying to manage the risk that you make the swap before transient is able to recoup the revenue that those sites previously got as seasonal.
So through you, Mr. Chair. So I'll fully admit that I'm not one that's sitting here saying let's throw out seasonal campers and go to every night coming in, but I think the report that's come through and the analysis that's been done has shown that there is pent-up demand from others within the community, and we as having a public institution as it's going on at this point in time certainly should not be limiting what it is that we can do. So I think my real question on this is why is this considered long-term on the thing? Like we've discussed this a number of times over the last few years, and I know that software has gone in place to go and start helping us move down the road with this. So why aren't we doing the short term? And why aren't we actually perhaps even doing a pilot project with one of our campgrounds in the next little bit and just see whether or not it's going to work? With the province basically coming along with a baseball bat to conservation authorities right now, maybe this is the time that we can be a little bit creative and really truly put some stuff in place. So I guess that's more commentary, but I really wish that we would take a look at this and try and do something about it, because I happen to believe this is totally unfair, the process that's in place currently. Set aside the monies. The monies are terrific. Gosh, we're all happy that those dollars are rolling in, but it certainly isn't, in my opinion, hitting the mandate of what conservation authorities are all about. So I'll just leave that as commentary, and we'll go from there. Thank you. Oh, I have one more question.
Yeah, sure, go ahead.
So let's go to happy stuff. So I mentioned the electricity as it's going on. So do you have plans to go and do some revamping of the electrical systems at our campgrounds?
Thank you. Through you, Chair, we're excited to come to this board in December with a full project that gives the entire playbook on how to improve, enhance, and increase our hydro at all of our, both Chippewa and Long Beach.
Thank you. And Member Cridlin, you have a question? Go ahead.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. Again, this is a report that's been, a lot of thoughts gone into it, so if there can be more discussion around the table and more voices, I think that's just going to help that report come back more ready. But again, I think building a little bit on what Member Foster was wanting to make sure that we cover, which is in the data is now here in front of us. So I'm looking forward to things that balance, which we're going to have to do, the return and the investments versus this strategic need of having that access for all. Can you just comment briefly on what, and again, the concern of it moving out there, but there is this natural attrition that's talked about in the report that's happening immediately. So, for example, can you speak to, if 10 sites or 20 sites, we're only talking about a small number of sites overall to get to that 60-40 eventually. But naturally, there'd be X number of sites that would come open perhaps next year. And maybe when we're thinking about the hybrid, maybe that's parallel work that could come in with your thinking process as part of your phase one work. So as you come with phase one and the financials, again, we can always reference now this report, but then maybe talk about more, have more discussion around what could we do with those ones that come through attrition. Maybe you can comment on that now, or I'm happy for that to come back in December. But again, moving up that discussion on the models and what makes sense for us to do to get to that balance that we're looking for would be helpful.
No, thank you, Member Cridland. I appreciate the question, and I actually should have probably have added a little more context. So I think there's a bit of a misconception that the same seasonal campers are the only ones that get to camp at our campgrounds. We have a fairly significant turnover rate annually, between 10 and 15 seasonal sites. We have this data come open every year. And although we have a significant wait list of, between 50 and 60 people annually, if you're on that list, and both park managers here can, within 2 years, you're a seasonal camper at one of those campgrounds. A lot of the people that are on these wait lists, they just go on all the wait lists. They try to get anywhere, and Long Beach and Chippewa may not even be their first or second option. So the wait list is a bigger number than it really is. And the majority of our seasonal campers, if they want to be a seasonal camper, will be there within 2 years.
And great. Donna, follow up, anything? Okay.
Thank you, Chair. Just again to keep revisiting this data and remind us again, maybe in December, how we can continue to leverage that, right?
Thanks, Member Cridland. I see Member Tattison, you have your hand up. Go ahead.
I do. Yeah, I was just wanted to throw something out to Adam. I totally am all about revenue generation. I think that it's necessary, and whatever way that we can produce the best revenue generation while balancing out the needs for, I guess, camping for all, is something. It's a worthy venture, and I can understand where Member Foster's coming from. But has there been given any consideration to looking at people that are staying? You set a rate for 2 years, but if people want to stay on for the third year, there's like a premium to stay on. So it's kind of like a disincentive to stay on, because you're going to get charged more as you continue to hold that. And then that would, maybe incentivize people to not stay on longer. And if they chose to, then it would be revenue generation. And hopefully that would, move the scales. I like hearing that it was 2 years, before somebody's on there. So, but just any thought about that?
Thank you, Member Tyson, for your question. That's not a model that's been used in any of the research that we did. Something we can certainly look into. I will. The part of the draw of being a seasonal camper, I remember though, is being able to make your site, put investment into your site. So, balancing out the investment they're going to make on their site and then having to put together an increased cost or fee after certain years may be a deterrent to our seasonal camping model and revenue we rely on. But it's an idea that certainly we can put in, as one of the recommendation was, as we look at the servicing, and through attrition, we start reducing the 75-25 to more of a 60-40 model, continuing to look at the success of the transient sites, continuing to look at all the success. These are all these options we can continue to look at. So I agree with that. That is a model that we can add to our observations on.
Okay, that comes with no fee. Okay, and I think it's important that it's important to keep a healthy wait list as well. Okay.
Thank you, Member Tattison. Are there any more questions for Adam? Okay, yep. Vice Chair Beatty?
Yes, I just want question of clarification. In this whole exercise, and this isn't the first time that we've done this exercise, but in the past, it's always been, you're going to increase the number of camping spots in both the campgrounds. Is that still on the agenda?
Thank you. And through you, Chair, again, come December, we will lay out all the servicing, how to increase all the sites, how to do it all. It's essentially a teaser.
That was good. The other thing is, with respect to data, do we have the data on who is using our campgrounds? Are they, especially the seasonal, are they predominantly people who live in the watershed, who live in the boundaries of the NPCA? How many are coming from Toronto? How many are coming from Buffalo, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera? Could we have that data in that report that's coming? Yes. Thank you.
So thank you again for the question, but all that data is within this report. So this is more of that data in this report, where the report in December will be more on the infrastructure side of things. So I'll let Will comment on it as well, because he did a lot of research on it. But we're pleased to report that it's primarily local residents of the Niagara watershed that are utilizing our seasonal campgrounds. Will, do you want to add anything?
Yeah, actually, if you give me 1 second. This is from one of the, apologies. This is from one of the gory detail that we provided to Adam separately, where we took this is from 2024 seasonal data, because we had the complete picture over the summer months. We've already talked about the age demographics, but we also looked at the distance traveled, and compared it to the typical campers in Canada, how far that they travel to get to site. For NPCA, the seasonal campers, it's almost exclusively within 50 miles of the sites, which was the only breakdown that we had. Very few from beyond that. We do have postal code data to go even further if we'd like, but it's a fairly concentrated geographic area.
Okay, thank you. Does that answer the question? And Will, do you have another? Oh, hands down. No? Okay, good. Are there any more questions? I guess I'll just have to play the Grinch here and tell everybody, wait till Christmas. Yes. And thank you, Adam. Seeing no more questions around the table, so the motion that report FA 53-25 regarding NPCA campground analysis and operating strategy be received, and that the recommendations included in the NPCA campground analysis operating strategy as presented in Appendix 1 be endorsed, and that recommendations included in the NPCA campground analysis and operating strategy be implemented through operating strategies and annual budget processes, seeking board direction as required. Can I have a mover and seconder to get that on the floor? Moved by Member Grant, seconded by Member Seaborn. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. Oh, not unanimously. Sorry, we have an abstainer or one against. So,
Chair, my camera's been disabled by the host.
oh, okay. We'll work on that. Member Tattison, was that?
Yes, thank
Okay.
you. So I support.
So we still have one 1 against. One troublesome. Well, I didn't say that, I just said 1 against. All right, so moving on, we have 6.3, proposed amendments to the Conservation Authorities Act to establish the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency and proposed boundaries for the regional consolidation of Ontario's conservation authorities. I'd like to invite our CAO, Leilani Lee Yates, to present on the proposed changes that have been released by the province over the past few weeks.
Thank you, Chair Metcalf and board members. The topic's not as exciting as campgrounds, and I'll get through this as easily as we can. It is a bit dense, but I'll take my time so we can get through that together. So this morning I'll be providing an overview of the proposed provincial changes affecting conservation authorities. This presentation relates to discussion item 9.6 with your agenda package, which we will be addressing later in the agenda. Uh-oh. Okay, hold on. Okay, perfect. This morning I'll share with the board information about Bill 68. It's a budget measures bill, Plan to Protect Ontario Act. That includes proposed amendments to the Conservation Authorities Act to establish the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency. Further, I'll walk us through the proposed boundaries and criteria for the proposed regional conservation authorities and the consultation opportunities as the province progresses with the proposal, and afterwards staff will be available for questions. So you may recall on October 31st, the province did announce a proposal for a provincial agency to lead the implementation of a new conservation authorities framework. And on November 6th, Bill 68 was introduced to Ontario Legislature, which under Schedule 3 includes proposed amendments to the Conservation Authorities Act to establish the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency. And Bill 68 will proceed through the legislative process, and if passed, the provisions establishing the agency would come into effect upon royal assent. And further, on November 7th, the province posted on the Environmental Registry of Ontario a policy proposal to consolidate Ontario's 36 conservation authorities to 7 and is seeking feedback. And the deadline for those comments is December 22nd. The proposed Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency, I'll just call it OPCA for now, and the regional conservation authorities intend to improve the province's conservation authority system to help get shovels in the ground faster for homes and other local infrastructure projects, while strengthening the vital role conservation authorities play in managing watersheds, protecting communities from floods and natural hazards. These plans are to strengthen the capacity, influence, and impact that the CAs have in providing vital watershed management and safeguarding people and property from flooding, and in being transparent and accountable in the delivery of permitting programs and services to Ontario's communities. Are you doing it on your end? No. Okay, great. So the province has identified key challenges the new conservation authority system seeks to address, and these would include a patchwork of standards and service delivery, outdated and fragmented systems, administrative duplication, and the need for more accountability and transparency. And although there are local differences between watershed jurisdictions, Conservation authorities and Conservation Ontario often collaborate to address emerging issues, to continuously improve service delivery, and support our collective network. And here at NPCA, we're committed to working with other levels of government and partners to modernize and streamline our services. Over the past several years, NPCA has been focused on continuous improvements through updating planning and permitting policies, updating corporate policies, developing new guiding strategies, enhancing procedures, and modernization initiatives, including investments in software and data management. And we remain committed to improving the delivery of our programs and services for the health and well-being of our local watersheds and communities. The Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks has provided further clarification on what would be changing for CAs and what wouldn't be and would remain the same. So these changes would provide more resources for frontline services, improved flood management and erosion prevention, strong environmental protections will be maintained, faster permit approvals, modern service delivery, and consistent standards and use of modern technology. What is not changing under the new framework is the governance model. Regional conservation authorities will continue to be independent, municipally governed organizations. Member municipalities will continue to be represented on a board of directors for each regional CA and will retain full governance responsibilities for regional CAs. Where CAs operate, areas currently served by conservation authorities will continue to be served by conservation authorities. The programs and services CAs provide, including responsibility for source water protection, natural hazard, and water management, will continue. The CA ownership and management of their lands, trails will continue, and providing access to green spaces, recreation, and education programs. Where and how CAs receive funding, such as through municipal levy, including maintaining board approval of final regional CA budgets, will continue. So to dig in a bit into Bill 68, so again, to note these, Bill 68 includes amendments to the Conservation Authorities Act to establish the agency, and Appendix 4 of Report 5625 includes a summary of the amendments, and I'll touch on some of those key components. So under Bill 68, the Conservation Authorities Act would be amended to include Part 8.1, the agency, and that establishes the OPCA, including establishing the objects of the agency, setting out the governance of the proposed agency, establishing tools for the agency oversight of conservation authorities, establishing provincial oversight of the agency, and setting out sources of agency funding. And this is a heavy slide, so I'll take some time to go through this. The proposed legislation includes 11 objects of this new agency. So this agency would provide or will oversee the governance of conservation authorities and other aspects of CAs, such as their operations, including programs and services they provide to further the purposes of the Conservation Authorities Act, oversee the transition to a regional watershed-based framework, promote consistent policy, standards, and fees for programs and services, assess and report on the effectiveness of conservation authorities in furthering the conservation, restoration, development, and management of natural resources, oversee and evaluate the financial performance of conservation authorities, guide and evaluate the strategic planning of CAs to ensure it aligns with provincial objectives, support the development and implementation of standardized and centralized systems for processing applications for permits, lead the development and implementation of digital strategies and shared services, support strategic investment in programs and services, including leveraging funding available to Ontario and conservation authorities, advise the Government of Ontario in respect of programs and services CAs provide, and any other objects that may be prescribed by legislation. So the agency would be governed by a board of directors as appointed by the Lieutenant Governor and Council, and would include 5 to 12 appointed members, a chair and up to 2 vice chairs. Members cannot be a member of Parliament, and members would sit for a term of up to 3 years and can serve up to 9 years in total. In appointing a person as a member of the board of directors, the following should be taken into consideration: the person's knowledge and experience in public administration, corporate governance, and finance, the person's knowledge of programs and services provided by conservation authorities, and any other matters prescribed by regulation. The Board of Directors will have bylaws and can pass resolutions regulating its proceedings and generally for the conduct and management affairs of the agency. And further, the Board of Directors would manage the performance of the CEO and may, through bylaw, establish such councils, committees, and other bodies it considers appropriate. The agency may issue directions to conservation authorities governing their operations, including programs and services, and a direction may address key performance indicators, key results or service delivery targets, service standards, information technology, procurement, training of members and employees, budgeting, asset management plans, and strategic plans. An agency cannot issue a direction to SAA until the minister is notified of that direction. All agency directions are to be published on a website. The agency must establish a notice period of 45 days to commence prior to the commencement of the direction, and the notice period is initiated when a notice is given to the minister. Under the proposed amendments, a chief executive officer will be appointed by the Secretary Cabinet with recommendation from the minister to be employed by the agency. The CAO can appoint employees, arrange for facilities and equipment, and obtain expert or technical advice or services. The minister may fund the agency on the terms and conditions that the minister considers appropriate, so through provincial funding. The agency may establish and require payment of fees related to its performance of duties, and an agency may recover costs and expenses the agency incurs by apportioning costs to conservation authorities. Also, through the amendments, it establishes ministerial oversight. So the Ministry of Environment, Conservation and Parks will provide oversight to the agency and will also retain policy responsibility for the Conservation Authorities Act and associated regulations. And provincial oversight of the agency would include that the agency must follow requirements under the provincial agencies and appointments directives, including an annual letter of direction. Every 3 years, the agency must provide a report on its effectiveness, priorities, and value for money. The minister can issue mandatory directives to the agency requesting information and initiate or require a review or audit of the agency and ministerial oversight of the agency regarding their directions to conservation authorities. So as I noted, the policy proposal for consolidation of conservation authorities into regional watershed-based authorities was posted on the ERO, and the commenting deadline is December 22nd. So in identifying the boundaries of the 7 proposed regional conservation authorities, the province developed criteria that primarily focused on watershed systems, keeping existing CAs whole wherever possible, and aligning with source protection regions to maintain strong connections to local hydrology and drinking water protection. The criteria are maintaining watershed-based jurisdictions, so aligning with natural hydrological boundaries to support effective flood and water management, consistent with drinking water source protection areas and regions, the relationships between conservation authorities and municipalities, in an effort to reduce administrative duplication and overlap for municipalities and conservation authorities to simplify accountability and strengthen local partnerships. Balance expertise and capacity across conservation authorities, so enhancing technical skills and resources across authorities to improve service and program delivery, and service continuity to ensure uninterrupted delivery of local conservation authority programs, including flood forecasting and warning, permitting, source water protection, through and after consolidation. So currently, Ontario's 36 conservation authorities are organized based on local watersheds crossing municipal boundaries. Each CA operates independently as a local public sector directed organization, governed by a board of municipally appointed representatives. Ontario CAs have a jurisdiction of over 100,000 square kilometers, an area which includes 402 unique municipalities, and we make significant contributions to Ontario's economy and communities. Collectively, we serve approximately 93% of Ontario's population and deliver programs and services totaling approximately $500 million annually. We employ over 2,000 full and part-time staff and 1,800 seasonal and contract staff. We collectively manage approximately 560 conservation areas with over 10 million visitors each year. CAs issue permits to builders, municipalities, property owners for development activities such as housing and infrastructure in areas affected by risks of natural hazards such as flooding, shorelines, watercourses, valleys, and wetlands. And permitting helps to ensure that development does not happen in unsafe areas and that it does not worsen the impacts of flooding, erosion in surrounding areas. Together, we deliver services that further the conservation, restoration, and management of our natural resources. And the province recognizes that CAs play a vital role in watershed management and protecting communities from natural hazards such as floods. Conservation authorities remain one of Ontario's best tools for balancing the province's urgent housing needs with the equally urgent imperative of watershed protection and climate resilience. Under the current system, more than half of all municipalities and areas served by CAs fall within the jurisdiction of 2 or more conservation authorities, which, according to the province, results in unnecessary duplication that diverts resources from frontline conservation work and service delivery. And if the proposed regional consolidation is implemented, this would be reduced by 63%. MECP also notes that individual CAs have significant disparities in size and resources, with some lacking access to the latest tools and technology that support flood management and evidence-based decision-making. And consolidation intends to enable more consistent service delivery and more efficient resource and information sharing, making conservation authorities more responsive to the needs of the communities they serve. The 7 proposed regional conservation authorities are Lake Erie, Huron-Superior, Western Lake Ontario, Central Lake Ontario, Eastern Lake Ontario, St. Lawrence, and Northeastern Ontario. Under this proposal, NPCA would fall under the Western Lake Ontario Regional Conservation Authority, along with Hamilton Conservation Authority, Conservation Halton, and Credit Valley Conservation. The boundaries of Western Lake Ontario RCA extend along the Western Lake Ontario shoreline from Niagara through Halton and Peel, encompassing urban and rural watersheds that support the Greater Toronto-Hamilton corridor. The RCA is primarily based on the western portion of the Northern Lake Ontario and Niagara River secondary watersheds. The proposed Western Lake Ontario RCA would also include the Niagara Peninsula Source Protection Area, the Halton-Hamilton Source Protection Region, and the Credit Valley Source Protection Area, which is part of the Credit Valley, Toronto Region, and Central Lake Ontario Source Water Protection Region. This Regional Conservation Authority would cover approximately 490,000 hectares of land and approximately a population of 1.75 million people. The new regional watershed boundaries would include portions of 5 upper-tier municipalities, 3 single-tier municipalities, and 25 lower-tier municipalities. And currently, the 4 governing boards of directors include a total of 53 members. The Niagara Peninsula watershed spans over 242,000 hectares of land, includes 15 municipalities with approximately 480,000 residents. The watershed encompasses 202 local waterways, approximately 90 kilometers of the Lake Erie shoreline, approximately 50 kilometers of the Lake Ontario shoreline, the Niagara River, portions of the Niagara Escarpment, and the northernmost range of the Carolinian Life Zone. The Welland Canal supports cargo shipping between the Great Lakes, bypassing the Escarpment and Niagara Falls. There are nearly 5,000 kilometers of watercourses in NPCA's watershed jurisdiction, that encompasses a rich variety of surface water features and are part of 3 major drainage basins: Lake Ontario, Lake Erie, and the Niagara River. Numerous streams, rivers, and creeks such as 12 Mile Creek, 20 Mile Creek flow into Lake Ontario, while Welland River and other tributaries drain to Niagara River. And Niagara River, a critical waterway to connecting the 2 Great Lakes. And the Lake Erie Basin includes the southern portion of the watershed with its own network of smaller streams and wetlands. And these surface features, including significant wetlands, play a key role in maintaining and supporting biodiversity, maintaining flooding, and providing water resources for both human use and natural habitats. Together, these interconnected water systems form the hydrological foundation for NPCA's jurisdiction. In general comparison to the other CAs within the proposed Western Lake Ontario Regional Conservation Authority, NPCA has the largest watershed jurisdiction with the least amount of staff and the smallest operating budget. In terms of land holdings, NPCA and CVC have similar size of CA-owned lands, followed by Conservation Halton and Hamilton Conservation Authority with the largest land holdings. With the 2 Great Lakes shorelines, NPCA's jurisdiction represents the largest length of coastal shorelines and communities. All 4 conservation authorities offer similar watershed-based programs and services scaled to local needs, including mandatory natural hazard management programs such as floodplain mapping, flood and forecast monitoring, plan review, development permitting, watershed monitoring, restoration and stewardship, education, land securement and management, and access to conservation areas. NPCA continues to leverage partnerships and funding to meet strategic plan targets and deliver programs, local programs and services to our communities. In the last several years, we've focused on operational improvements and have implemented best management practices to improve service delivery. Within our first 4 years of our 10-year strategic plan, 41% of our strategic plan key performance indicators had been achieved and 50 are in progress. We continue to see a decrease in our reliance on municipal levies and are increasing our capacity to generate revenue and leverage external funding. For every municipal dollar we levy, we've been successful raising an additional $1.91. Should this proposal move forward, we are well positioned to share with the province and our partner conservation authorities the tremendous work our staff have done to elevate NPCA's programs and services. So at this time, the province and MECP staff are seeking feedback on the proposed Regional Conservation Authority boundaries and the criteria to inform the planning for the future state of conservation authorities, with a focus on governance, transition, benefits of consolidation, budget process, and local partnerships. Following this consultation period, MECP may undertake further consultation at a future date on any additional proposed legislative and regulatory changes that are needed to enable the regional consolidation. At this time, staff are seeking input from our Board of Directors on the above discussion questions to inform our ERO submission. A survey has also been conducted with our staff to elicit their input. Staff have reached out to our Indigenous partners, offering to discuss the provincial proposal and how we'll continue to work together during the transition process. And further, staff are reaching out to our watershed municipalities to discuss the proposal and offer delegations to councils and committees as appropriate. So through the report before you today, we're seeking the board's direction to hold a special meeting in early December to present our fulsome comment submission so that we can distribute that to our partners to assist them in preparing comments. In terms of next steps here, so the agency would lead the transition to regional conservation authorities with conservation authority, municipal, and interested party involvement, including providing guidance and support throughout the consolidation process in areas such as developing a structured process and roadmap for the consolidation, providing support and expertise to CAs on the organizational aspects of the consolidation, provide provincial level coordination to address system-wide issues that may arise so that they can mitigate risks of delays. Changes are not intended to be initiated until after the municipal elections in October 2026. Existing board members would continue to serve until the expiration of their terms next year. MECP staff have indicated that they intend to co-design the new framework with conservation authorities, municipalities, and other partners. And while the agency will provide the guidance and the support, the responsibility for deciding how these changes will be implemented will be with the Regional Conservation Authority boards. MEC staff also recognize that the transition would happen in phases. So just to summarize some timelines here, so right now the ERO posting is out. MECP staff have indicated that there will be focused consultation with Conservation Authority leadership and other partners such as municipalities to inform the boundaries of the regional conservation authorities. Bill 68 continues to move through legislature, and upon royal assent, the Ontario Provincial Agency will form, and they will be able to exercise their objects at that time. It's anticipated that the agency will continue to consult on any additional proposed legislation and regulatory changes to enable the consolidation, and additional proposed legislation or regulatory changes are anticipated in the spring of 2026. It's expected that the current CA boards will complete their current terms at the end of 2026, and the transition process with the new Regional Conservation Authority boards would begin late 2026 to early 2027. And at this time, the CAOs and general managers of all 36 conservation authorities continue to meet through Conservation Ontario's coordinated efforts. And further, the CAOs for NPCA, Hamilton CA, Conservation Halton, and CBC will also continue to meet during the consultation process. For NPCA at this time, as the proposals progress, we continue to operate as usual, delivering programs and services without disruption, including commitments under agreements with our member municipalities and other partners. We'll continue to ensure continuity of frontline services and maintain the high standards our communities rely on. We look forward to participating in meaningful discussion, providing constructive input to ensure that any future framework continues to address the unique needs of our watersheds and achieves an effective balance between watershed protection and housing goals. So I thank you for the opportunity to provide the board with an overview of the proposed legislative and boundary changes, and staff are available to answer your questions. Thank you.
Great, thanks, Leilani. There's a lot of information wrapped up into that presentation for sure. Are there any questions for Leilani at this time? Member Foster.
I'll start. So, quite a picture that's been painted, and where things are going with all of this. Let's be blunt, as it's going on. This, for all intents and purposes, means the NPCA is done at some point in time. Is that correct? Oh, sorry.
My takeaway from the consultations and discussions at this point, particularly with MECP staff, is their intention is to move forward with consolidation of the conservation authorities. Still finalizing what that will look like at the end of the day, but they seem to signal the strong position of that 7 that are shown in the ERO posting.
And so, through you, Mr. Chair, so, and I found your graph or your piece on, size and property versus revenues and stuff like that you had as part of your presentation. It paints a picture that there's going to be a heck of a lot of influence coming from around the lake on the other side, for sure. As you as CAOs been talking about this, and is there some thinking processes that are going to go into play as we start moving down the road with this?
Thank you, and through the chair, we are being proactive to start meeting. We're starting to pull together these statistics and information about each conservation authority so that we can share that with each other so we know where each sort of stands at this time. And then what that would mean if we were to become one regional conservation authority, also, looking to our boards and our municipal partners to provide us their advice and their input on what they see as concerns moving forward. But definitely at this time, discussions have already started because we already see the need to start bringing that information together.
And further through you, Mr. Chair, so and looking at the structure that's coming into play, I mean, it may in some ways make sense. I mean, I've always kind of wondered, and we have the chair of the Hamilton on board here too, but I've always kind of wondered why Hamilton and Niagara wasn't closer on some of these things as well. So perhaps in some ways it makes sense. Is there any concern in the CAO discussions about the relationships that are going on here? Do you see, or in the discussions that are going on, do you see, I'll just be blunt, you know, the problems that are going to come into play? I mean, I honestly, like, you know, with the elephants around the end of the lake, not Hamilton, sorry guys, Hamilton's great, but but moving towards Toronto on the thing, I mean, I just see us getting buried as it's going on with this. So again, you know, maybe I'm double emphasizing, but from the CAO's point of view, do you see concerns coming down the road with this?
Thank you for the question. At a relationship level, the CAOs, what would be in this Western Lake Ontario group, we know each other well and we work together well. And we typically do reach out to each other on matters so that we can look for areas of consistency and learn from each other if they've gone through something similar. So starting now, we do have a good relationship to start working together. I definitely think as time progresses, we'll be able to see more insight on what some of those concerns would be. As I noted, there are differences in programs from a scale perspective. Yes, typically we provide same types of programs and services, but they are unique to each watershed municipality and communities. So, you know, there will be differences there and questions of, you know, how do you reconcile that moving forward? I think particularly on the governance side, there'll need to be a lot of discussion on how that comes together. And the budgeting.
Thank you, Leilani. And so again, you know, just thinking this through, I found the 5 questions they're asking us is, gee, isn't this a great thing? And how are we going to make it greater? And blah, blah, blah as it's going on. So the train has left the station. This is happening from a legislative point of view, is my understanding. So when we look at our staff and our conservation areas and stuff like that, I can't see us making a whole heck of a lot of changes as it's going on. I mean, you know, we have what it is that we have within our area. So is this in the end going to be more on the administrative side that really the major changes are coming into play? I mean, you know, planning, you know, someone sitting in Mississauga isn't going to know the planning issues in downtown St. Catharines. You know, from the you know, our facilities, our things that we have in and across, I mean, are critically important for Niagara, and I know Hamilton's will be critically important for Hamilton. So I'm just, is still the thinking is that, look, we're probably going to have about the same group, but I think it's you guys at the upper level that are going to be the ones that are in jeopardy. No disrespect to everybody. So any thoughts on that?
Through you, Chair. What we have heard from MECP staff is that this time, I guess the vision or thought is that there would continue to be local offices within these regional conservation authorities. So, for example, with Western Lake Ontario, there'd be a Niagara office, Hamilton office, Halton office, Credit Valley office, with a regional conservation authority board. And the board would be ultimately responsible for matters such as, you know, hiring, recruitment, HR, the budget process, et cetera. And guidance would be coming in support, has been noted too, from the provincial agency during that transition and to provide those tools and guidance. So a lot of details are to be determined, but that has seemed to be, from what we've heard so far, the vision.
Thank you, Leilani. I'm going to go to Member Clark. You have your hand up.
Member Clark, you're on mute, sorry.
There we go. Sorry about that. Thank you, Chair. I just like most of the conservation authorities and the board members, I think we all have lots of concerns. I'm concerned that the minister has indicated that the assets will be rolled up into the new regional facility. So our local reserves, our land, our assets will all become under the control of this new regional board. It raises questions about how local programming will be maintained when the new regional board members are, as the member just stated, far from downtown St. Catharines, for example, or any of the other members. I have concerns that local initiatives could be overruled by the other member municipalities. I have concerns about how the new regional CA board will be constituted. We want to ensure that the member municipalities that there's a correct number of board members on this new facility. Not sure if that's going to be based on land size or some other equation. I truly have concerns that this is not going to save any money. Costs are going to go up as the employees will be administering much larger organizations and thereby asking for a higher salary. The minister's position that there will be no job losses is to me specious, as there will be several redundant management positions from all of these conservation authorities that are being merged into one. And the minister opined that these CAOs and COs can take positions that are downstream in the hierarchy. That's constructive dismissal. And so there are going to be job losses. So I'm really concerned that a lot of the proposal is simply going to create more challenges down the road. And I quite frankly don't understand what the end goal is. If the minister wants to ensure that permitting processes is standardized across the board, then they simply have to do that through regulation, and they can create an online portal where all conservation authorities have to follow that direction. So speaking from my own position, I don't like where this is going. I think it's going to be a mistake, and I will participate in any gatherings to address the issues. I just wanted to put those on the floor. I similarly has put the same things on the Hamilton Conservation Authority Board of Directors so that they also can discuss some of these issues. It's very vague at this moment, and I don't see how it's going to improve conservation authorities. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Clark. Leilani, do you have a comment on that? Or okay, good. I'm going to go to Member Taddison before I get to Vice Chair Beatty. Go ahead, Member Taddison.
Just a question for Leilani from her perception or perspective. What consultation, is she aware of any consultation that took place with CAs before the announcement of this process started, or was it just kind of thrown out?
Through the chair, there was not consultation between MECP and the conservation authorities. We had a sense of changes coming because if you looked at their election platform and then their budget, there was clear indication of looking at common sense conservation principles for conservation authorities. And again, their housing targets indicated that likely on the permitting side, something would be coming forward. So collectively as CAs, we've been trying to kind of read the tea leaves and anticipate what this may be. But I can say that announcement to conservation authorities in the morning of October 31st on exactly what this plan is was a surprise.
Okay, thanks. I appreciate that. I guess I could say that, as experiencing amalgamation in Hamilton, where, 5 or 6, I guess, different areas came together to form one. I don't think that the savings were realized, that were stated that were going to be realized in terms of operational efficiency. So I just want to say thanks for handling this so professionally. And again, I will do whatever I can to support the maintenance of the current system. I know that, as Chair Foster says, it sounds like it's already in the works and there's no way to reverse this. However, they came out once and they said that we're going to delve into the green belt, and through public opinion that was changed. So just wondering if there's any appetite out there for something like that. Are we writing a letter like the other, or are we just going to engage and go forward and be good soldiers?
Thank you, through the chair. So when we get to the report, there is the recommendation to come back in a special meeting with the fulsome comments, and at that time, should the board wish to put forward a particular recommendation and resolution at that time, we'd work with you to put that forward. In the correspondence today, you see a couple examples that we have received from Essex Conservation Authority and a group of municipalities who raised concerns over the proposal. So there are examples coming through that we can share with the board on how we may wish to move forward. And of course, my continuing discussions with the CAOs with the other 3 and getting a sense of where they're moving with their boards and resolutions. And I'll keep that communication open with our board members.
Okay, thank you very much.
Okay, Member Beatty?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The NPCA is actually in a unique position when it comes to reorganization. I've been here a couple of years. I remember when the NPCA went off the rails, and it took a detailed, in-depth study and report by the Auditor General, asked for by all our municipal partners, asked for, and we finally went through that process. And I would suggest very strongly that we send a copy of the report to the minister and tell him or ask him, don't reinvent the wheel. It's already been done. This is a review that resulted in best practices for any and all of the CAs in the province of Ontario. And we implemented it fairly significantly, if I remember correctly. Coming out of that, we also had the administrative bylaw, which I think we reviewed, and my good friend Mr. Clark chaired it, and a policy wonk has never been his weakness. So we already have the reorganizational structure, and by going off the rails, we helped create it. And then you get into McCarthy. Is that how you say his name, McCarthy? The current system has not been working for homeowners, builders, farmers, and municipalities. And I ask you, is it working in Niagara watershed? Have we got any serious problems in any one of those 4 categories? I don't think so, because my phone used to ring on issues. And over the last 2 years, it's very silent. So I ask you, do we have a serious problem in any of those 4 issues? Oh, sorry.
Through the chair, in the last year, I may have had 3 phone calls on issues that have come to my attention, maybe a couple others through the board members, but we always meet with those individuals and we talk about what their concerns are and we resolve them. So I wouldn't say there are major issues that are hindering our ability to carry out, our functions and our programs and services. And my approach has always been I'd rather somebody come speak to me than, let it perpetuate and not get dealt with. So that's been my experience, is it has been working, and we have been able to address those concerns that do come forward.
I'd also point out, somebody asked about where did this idea come from. I sat in on the last Conservation Ontario meeting. It was an electronic meeting, but one of the comments by one of the, I think he's the CIO, said that he was in a meeting with the ministry, and he got the distinct impression that this whole concept of reorganization, streamlining, consolidation didn't come from the ministry. The ministry wasn't involved. It came out of the Premier's office. That's a little concerning. However, let's continue. So this is where it's coming from, is from the Premier's office. And the Greenbelt tampering came from the Premier's office. So is this just another rouge at attempting to chop up the province? I think so. And then he goes on to say there will be no layoffs, adding executives will be offered frontline jobs in the new regions. Well, that's going to depend on how it's organized. Are we going to have a central body with 4 regional districts, or are we going to chop that up too? And we have developed here an excellent staff who are doing a good, they talk about customer service. I don't think the customer service is any better anywhere than in the NPCA. And again, I would suggest to the minister that he study what we've been through. He might find an answer or two. And I would suggest at the end, I'll cut off there because I'm just going to get ticked. I would suggest we oppose this. It's okay to write a letter on how it will affect us, and I went through the basic outline, but the fundamental has to be that this is stupid. And somebody needs to tell the provincial government it's stupid. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Beatty. I guess that was commentary. Leilani? Okay. Member Clark, I see your hand is up. Refer back to you.
I think conservation authorities should be objecting to this proposal. I think Member Beatty is correct in his assumptions. I serve on 2 conservation authorities that are well respected in their communities, and I'm not aware of any complaints being received by any conservation authority. Do developers always get their permit approved? It depends on the application and where the development permit is required. So I honestly don't know what the real rationale is, and I will put this on the floor, Chair. I am concerned that our land holdings under the new regional CA will come under pressure to be sold off for housing. I see no other validation as to why this is occurring. So I'm not sure how we would go about making a position on this board. I'll leave it to the other board members as I'm dealing with this on the Hamilton conservation side. But I think there has to be some pushback, respectful diplomatic pushback. There's no rationale for this. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Clark. Are there any more questions around the table and comments? Yeah. After, dissecting and going through this, as I've been through many of changes, health boards being one of them, when the amalgamation of the health boards happened the last year, there is always an underlying method to their madness. And with some of the comments that were made by Member Beatty and Member Clark, that it is concerning moving forward as to as to their methodology and their thinking. They're possibly laying a foundation of, exactly. There's something more in the future, and not having a crystal ball, not being able to see the future, but through previous experiences with situations such as this around the province, that there's always a method in their madness. So we'll just leave it at that. We can go on all afternoon. So seeing no more questions around the table. Oh, Member Clark, you still have your hand up. Did you want to make another comment? Okay, thank you. So we will move on. Thank you,
Mr. Chair, it's Member Whitty.
Oh, sorry. Yep.
It's all right. I enjoying the conversation. Just wondering if you get a copy of that presentation, so that I can kind of print it out and read it and digest it. But I'm on board with with all the members that we should diplomatically refuse or not endorse this. So thank you.
Yes, thank you, Member Whitty. There was a PDF sent with the addendum. You could access it online there.
Okay, sorry, I might have missed that. Thank you. Thank you for that clarification.
Yep, no worries. Thank you again, Leilani. So they have the motion that the presentation regarding proposed amendments to the Conservation Authorities Act to establish the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency and proposed boundaries for the regional consolidation of Ontario's conservation authorities be received. Can I have a mover and seconder to get that on the floor? Moved by Vice Chair Beatty, second by Member Grant. All those in favor to just receive the information? Opposed? Okay, so that is carried. Moving on to item 8, consent items. We have one consent item before us today. Can I get a mover and seconder to have item 8.1, the report FA 57-25 legislative amendments under the Clean Water Act pertaining to source protection be received? Can I get a mover and seconder to have that on the floor, please? Moved by Member Cridlin, second by Member Grant. Thank you. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Discussion items, report FA 54-25, Coyle and Drapers Creek floodplain mapping. I'd like to invite Director Green to provide the board with a brief overview of the report. Go ahead, Natalie.
I thank you. Through you, Chair. The report before the board today is to obtain approval on the Coyle and Drapers Creek's floodplain mapping report and associated floodplain maps for use in NPCA's implementation of Ontario Regulation 4124 and policies for planning and development in NPCA watersheds. As you know through previous presentations to the board from staff, NPCA has a well-developed regulatory floodplain mapping program that aims to produce and maintain mapping and data to inform and manage development within flood risk areas. This floodplain mapping project was undertaken for Coyle and Drapers Creek, which are tributaries to the Welland River, primarily draining areas in the town of Pelham and some areas within the city of Welland. Limited mapping in these areas was last done in 1976. As part of our comprehensive approach to engagement, NPCA hosted several public information meetings at key project milestones, which included formal presentations, a Q&A period, and opportunities for informal discussions. In total, 75 people participated in these events. Additionally, information was available on NPCA's Get Involved engagement portal, which received over 1,000 visits from 800 people over the course of the project timeline. As part of our floodplain mapping approval process, a 30-day public commenting period was open from August 29th to September the 28th, 2025, providing another opportunity for people to review the proposed final floodplain mapping, ask additional questions, and submit their feedback. During this particular commenting period, additional concerns were raised with the mapping, which led to some minor adjustments to the proposed floodplain, and an additional 30-day commenting period was added to our engagement process and was held from October the 21st to November the 20th, 2025, with no further concerns. Generally, the feedback received was focused on site and property-specific questions, concerns about property tax implications, and concerns about fallen trees impeding flow of water. This floodplain mapping exercise is part of NPCA's core mandate and an important step in protecting people and properties from natural hazards such as flooding and erosion. Manager Brendan Bugellen is with us online today to help answer any technical questions that you may have. Thank you.
Thank you, Director Green. Are there any questions regarding the report? No, good. Nope, seeing none. Thank you, Brendan, for being here. Doesn't like they're going to put you on the hot seat, so enjoy your day. So thank you. No more. Seeing no hands around the table. So. Can I get a mover and a seconder to receive the report? Moved by Vice Chair Beatty, second by Member Tattison. Motion that the report FA 5425 regarding Coyle and Drapers Creek floodplain mapping be received, and that the NPCA Board of Directors approve the Coyle and Drapers Creek floodplain mapping reports and associated floodplain maps for use in the implementation of Ontario Regulation 41/24 and policies, and that the approved floodplain maps of Coyle and Drapers Creeks be made publicly available, and further that report FA 5425 be circulated to the City of Welland and the Town of Pelham for information. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you. And we're moving on to item 9.3, report FA 5825 regarding 2026 conservation areas fees. I will invite Director Christie to provide a brief overview of the proposed 2026 fees for conservation areas. Go ahead, Adam.
Thank you, Chair. The purpose of this report is to bring the NPCA Board to consider and approve the proposed 2026 conservation area fees. The NPCA administers a fee schedule for a variety of services within its organization, and is reviewed and analyzed on three central factors: balancing inflationary pressures, user demand for services, and comparable services with other facilities, other conservation authorities, and the local private sector. So Appendix 1 within the report has the proposed fees, and happy to take any questions.
Thanks, Adam. Are there any questions for Adam around the table at this time? Are there any questions? Seeing none, so I will call the question here. Can I get a mover and seconder for the motion recommended within the report, that report FA 5825 2026 conservation areas fees be received, and that the 2026 conservation areas fees outlined in Appendix 1 of report FA 5125 be approved? Can I get a mover and seconder for that? Moved by Member Foster, seconded by Member Seaborn. All those in favor? Carried unanimously. Thank you. Up next, report or 9.4, report FA 5225 regarding Board of Directors 2026 meeting schedule. Up next, we have a proposed meeting schedule for 2026. I'll invite Manager Melanie Davis to go over any notable changes. Melanie?
Thank you, Chair, and through you. So we have the 2026 meeting schedule presented for Board's consideration today. We did make some more significant changes last year with moving the meetings to start at 10 a.m. And increase some flexibility in terms of whether meetings were held on the third or fourth meeting of the month. a couple learning opportunities through that. We recognized that having that flexibility for which Friday meetings fell on was of value to staff, but there were some times where we had lead up where we had a fourth Friday one month and a third the next month, which created a little bit of a administrative hurdle for staff getting board meetings ready. So the calendar before you recommends that board meetings are held on the fourth Friday consistently, with the exception of December, unless you all would like to join us for Christmas. We thought we would stick with the third Friday there. I would love a turkey dinner. Are you cooking? And then with regards to governance committee, we have recommended additional meetings scheduled based around the anticipated timelines for changes coming from the province. So there are 5 governance committee meetings recommended, and of course, working with the chair, there is flexibility there if meetings are not needed or additional meetings need to be scheduled.
Great. Thank you, Melanie. Are there any questions? Member Foster.
Yes, thank you. So election year next year, so I'm assuming the December the 18th would be likely the last meeting of this board?
In December.
As we understand it, yes, that would be the last meeting of the term at this time. Turkey dinner.
Are there any more questions for Manager Davis at this time? Seeing none around the table, can I get a mover and seconder for the motion before us? That report FA 52 2025 Board of Directors 2026 meeting schedule be received, and that Appendix 1 to report FA 52 25 regarding Board of Directors 2026 meeting schedule be approved, and that the meeting schedule be published on the NPCA's website for public information. And further, that the meeting schedule be circulated to participating and local area municipalities. Mover and seconder for that one, please. Moved by Member Grant, seconded by Member...
I'll move it, Mr. Chair.
Seconded by Member Witteveen. Thank you. All those in favor? It's carried unanimously. Thank you. And moving on to item 9.5, report FA 55-25. Regarding federal program changes to 2 billion trees. This report has been brought forward to inform the board of federal changes to the 2 billion tree program and emphasize NPCA's capacity to support tree planting initiatives through the Trees for All program. Who's handling that? Anybody? Melanie, any comment on that? Natalie? Somebody? Okay. Director Green, thank you.
Thank you. Through you, Chair. So as noted, this report is to provide information about the 2 Billion Trees program. As you may be aware, the federal government did pass a budget on November the 17th regarding many of their programs and services that they were providing, including some targeted savings and program changes to the 2 Billion Trees programming, which funds several different local groups and organizations, including the NPCA. You may recall that the Trees for All program that we deliver within the watershed is subsidized with an award from 2 Billion Trees. We do have an agreement in place with the federal government for that program to 2028. There is some clarity that the agreement is in place and will continue, and we will be able to continue to deliver our tree planting services through that program. And we will continue to work with municipal partners through our MOUs and service level agreements, as well as the other aggregators, Forest Canada, Tree Canada, that also provide some funding to this program. And lastly, of course, the Niagara Peninsula Conservation Foundation, which is a key partner in helping us deliver that tree planting program. So this is simply for awareness and to know that we still have that capacity to do our tree planting within the watershed and continue to work with our municipal partners to deliver that service and help improve biodiversity, canopy carver, and all of the ecosystem services that trees provide to us all. Thank you.
Thanks, Natalie, for that overview. Are there any questions regarding that? Member Cridland.
Thank you, through you, Chair. Again, just a comment and recognition for the urgency. We tracked down this original grant the teamwork and the push that was done originally and the payoff we're getting right now for this to continue. So just kudos to staff to be ahead of all of these opportunities. So thank you.
Thank you, Member Cridlin. Absolutely. So can I get a mover and seconder for the presented recommendations? Moved by Member Foster, seconded by Member Grant. Everybody's got short arms this morning. So the motion, whereas existing commitment through 2 billion trees to the NPCA's Trees for All program is affirmed through to 2028, whereas NPCA has entered into agreements with partners across the watershed to enhance natural canopy through the Trees for All program, whereas tree planting initiatives provide vital community benefits by sequestering carbon, enhancing biodiversity and natural habitats, improving human health and well-being, and creating opportunities for civic engagement. Be it resolved that report FA 55-25 regarding federal program changes to 2 billion trees be received, and further that report FA 55-25 federal program changes to 2 billion trees be circulated to partner and local area municipalities for information. All those in favor? And that's carried unanimously. Thank you. So moving on to 9-point run, report FA 5625 RE, with proposed amendments to the Conservation Authorities Act to establish the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency and proposed boundaries for the regional consolidation of Ontario's conservation authorities. Since we received a presentation earlier that covers the substance of this report, rather than inviting staff to provide an overview, I think we can move right into discussion and questions around the table. I will start by noting that staff have identified potential options for a special meeting date, which will be scheduled upon our direction shortly after this meeting. We do have a confidential appendix associated with this report. I will look for a motion to move into closed session should we have any questions or discussion related to it. Is there a appetite to move into closed session at this time? Okay, we do have one question. Member Cridlin.
Thank you, through you, Chair, and I apologize if we're repeating some of the details around this significant report. Just some guidance based on some of the discussion around the table during the presentation in terms of timing and procedures. For a notice of motion today, should there be one, is that something that should be discussed at this point, or will there be an item when we come out of closed where we could then discuss whether a notice of motion still is on the agenda? So it's very much a procedural matter at this point, Chair. Thank you.
I'll defer to CAO Leilani Yates.
Thank you, Member Cridlin. We will be coming out of closed into public, so if there is an additional motion you wish to bring out at that time, myself and Manager Davis can help the board with crafting that motion following the closed session.
Thank you.
Is the question still whether we're going into closed session?
I was just asking that. So we are heading into.
It's appetite of the board. If there's discussion they'd like to have an open.
Yeah, it was.
Discussing the appendix.
Yep. Member Foster.
So, we've all had the information. I'm just wondering, we do have a December 10th meeting coming up where we're going to be fulsomely discussing. Personally, I don't think we need to be going into closed session this morning, or this afternoon or evening, whatever we're in right now. So, I don't think that's required at this point, but I'll leave it up to the chair and others to make that decision.
Thank you, Member Foster. Yeah, we're going to have a special meeting regarding this at that time. I think we'll be better prepared maybe for questions, but we also have Vice Chair Beatty. Question? Comment? Yes.
On the agenda, item 14.1 outlines other things that may be relevant to the ERO. So maybe we should go into camera just to find out what they may be from the CAO and from staff. Thank you. I would move that we go into camera.
Can I get a seconder on that? Seconder by Member Cridland. All those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Oh, that's carried. So at this time, we'll be at 12:40 or 12:35. We'll be moving into closed session. So we won't be coming back out. We will be coming back out of closed session. For those that are joining us online, I'm sorry?
Just before we start the discussion in camera, there's a few people that we need to.
Okay. Thank you. All right, thank you. We're back into open session here at 1:07. And just going to get, do I need a mover and seconder for this? Or we did, okay. So I need a mover and seconder for the motion presented. Motion that report FA 5625 regarding proposed amendments to the Conservation Authorities Act to establish the Ontario Provincial Conservation Agency and proposed boundaries for the regional consolidation of Ontario's conservation authorities be received, and that a special board of directors meeting be scheduled at the call of the chair no later than December 10th, 2025, and further that the staff bringing forward comments on the policy proposal within the ERO posting 025-1257 for approval at the special board of directors meeting. Can I get a seconder, mover and seconder? Moved by member Taddison, second by member Grant. All those in favor? That is carried. Thank you. There are no committee reports. There are no motions. There are no notices of motions. Does anyone have a notice of motion they'd like to make present? Seeing none.
Why did he look at me?
Is there any new business that members would like to bring forward? Seeing none. Closed session, since we have addressed the confidential appendix to report FA 5625, we do not have an agenda item that require us returning to closed session. So at this time, I will look for a motion for adjournment. Motion by, moved by member Grant, second by member Taddison. All those in favor? That is carried unanimously. Thank you for everyone joining us today, and meeting is adjourned at 1.